I have in my hand right now a gospel tract that is somewhat near and dear to my heart. You say, why is that? Well, we have 40-something different titles. Why does this one separate itself just a little bit? Well, it's because it's the very first gospel tract that I ever wrote. Now, many of you have heard the story before, but we were back in late February, early March of the year 2020. Remember what that was like? Before the world got flipped on its head. I was sitting in a church service. Good church, faithful church folks. It was a midweek service, a prayer service. And I got the sense that God's people were, this word came to mind, overwhelmed. I'll be honest with you, I was casting about. The world was kind of coming apart at the seams. It doesn't seem to have slowed down since then, but I was thinking, what can I do? I had been in evangelism for all of not even 2 and 3 months at that point. I'm thinking, what can a young man like me? I don't know anything. I realize how wet behind the ears I am. What can I do? And I believe I was very clearly led to this thought. Well, knucklehead, you're the director of a tract ministry. Maybe you should write a gospel tract. And I put pen to paper. And I think the preacher who was speaking that evening, he takes just a little bit of credit for this gospel tract because, to my shame, I actually wrote the majority of this gospel tract during the preaching service that night. And it became a gospel tract called Overwhelmed. This gospel tract, in the last 18 months or so, well over 1 million of them, not just printed, but put out around the world free of charge. They've been in countries like Pakistan, been in countries like India, Nigeria, of course, all across the United States, South America. They've been in Asia, Oceania, over by New Zealand, Australia, places like that. This gospel tract has been all over the place. Unfortunately, God's people, in some cases, are still a little bit overwhelmed. Maybe this gospel tract would help put a little bit of steel in your spine, would help us realize that we don't have to live in fear regardless of what's going on in our society. But beyond that, maybe, Christian friend, this gospel tract could be a help to you as you evangelize the lost. I've come to realize that people are more in touch with their mortality now than maybe at any time since, say, 9/11. Remember that in the aftermath of those 2 amazing towers falling to the ground, people came together. Now, of course, I'm telling that account from the perspective of an American. I realize that. There are probably some listening right now that would say, it didn't strike me in that way because I'm not from America. But for you that know what I'm speaking of, it's amazing the openness, the heart, the softness of the hearts that we saw as Christians in the aftermath of that tragic event. But friend, Christian friend, lost people are open now like never before. This is not the time to put our heads in the sand. This is not the time for us as Christians to be overwhelmed. This is the time for us to rise up.